Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss redeeming World of Hyatt points for good value. For those of you new to the channel, I'm JP Knowledge, and here on this channel, I like to drop some knowledge on you about personal finance, savings, and how to maximize spend. If that's something you're interested in, please subscribe down below. So recently, a buddy of mine got himself the World of Hyatt credit card, and after he ended up hitting the sign-up bonus, he asked me what type of value you should end up seeing from redeeming his points. And my answer I gave him was, it depends on what he's trying to do. Now, typically, you'll actually end up seeing that World of Hyatt points will have a range of value somewhere around the lines of about 1.8 to 2 cents per point. So that means if you haven't hit the full sign-up bonus for World of Hyatt credit card, which is 60,000 points, you should be looking at getting somewhere around the lines of about $1,200 from that sign-up bonus with World of Hyatt stays. Now, this is what I told him for what he's actually going to get up for redeeming for value, but there's a possibility you could end up getting more or less. It just depends on how you end up redeeming it. If you happen to be interested in the World of Hyatt credit card, I will have a referral link down below. If you decide to use it, it will help with the channel, and I'd be very thankful for your support. The one thing that's beautiful about the World of Hyatt program as compared to some other programs is that this program actually has an award chart. So what this ends up meaning is that there is a max level and a bottom level for what you can end up getting when redeeming your points. So if you happen to redeem at a category 1 Hyatt hotel, the lowest amount you can actually end up getting for redeeming your points is actually end up being $3,500. But at the opposite end, the maximum you would actually end up spending at a category 8 during peak time would end up being 45,000 points. So you have a minimum amount of points on off-peak at being 3,500 and then a maximum of 45,000. Now the reason why this is nice is because regardless of what the price is, if there is award space available, you can end up redeeming it and actually end up having something be 45,000 points, but say normally it end up being a hotel that might end up being around the lines of $900, but ends up going up to being double $1,800, then you actually just got more value for your points. Now this isn't gonna happen to that level all the time, but you might end up seeing something along those lines that actually could end up happening when you end up actually redeeming your points. So what I'm actually gonna do is show you some examples of what you should maybe expect for trying to get, reasonable value for your points at places when you actually end up redeeming your World of Hyatt points. So my buddy, he's actually gonna be staying out in Vegas, and what I was telling him was depending on when he actually goes to Vegas is depending on whether or not you should actually use points or just use cash. World of Hyatt is actually partnered with MGM Resorts, which means that if you actually happen to stay at a MGM Resort hotel, you could actually end up using World of Hyatt points to actually redeem them for an award stay. And this can actually end up being valuable depending on when you go. Now, as I said, if you actually end up going during the week, if you actually end up looking at going to Vegas during the week, typically it's not the greatest value. So remember I said you should be getting somewhere around the lines of closer to about 2 cents per point is typically what I end up thinking for my World of Hyatt points. But if you end up actually looking on here during the week, you end up seeing that, say you stayed at the Signature at MGM Grand, you're looking at 17,000 points for $122 was what the stay actually would cost. So if you actually end up doing it, staying there, you'd actually end up getting yourself less than 1 cent per point. So you'll see this at a number of places when you actually end up staying at Vegas during the week, because Vegas can end up being really cheap during the week. I mean, if you happen to stay at Excalibur ends up being $29 a night, but if you actually end up using your points, it's actually gonna end up being 9,000 points. So if you actually end up looking at 9,000 points as being 2 cents per point, you're looking at about $180, but staying at that hotel would only actually end up costing you $29 to actually stay during the week. So this is the reason why you typically don't actually want to use your World of Hyatt points during the week in Vegas. However, say you happen to actually want to go during a popular weekend, then you actually might end up seeing you can get some really good value for it. So right here, if you actually end up going back to the Signature at MGM Grand, you're looking at 23,000 points. So the points did go up, but it ends up being $339 per night actually staying there. And if you end up looking down here at something like Excalibur is 15,000 points. We're looking at $169. So still not great value, but better value than what you actually end up getting during the week. So this is something to note for when you actually end up staying in Vegas. My buddy's actually going out there, and the week he ended up looking at it to stay at the MGM, it's actually going to be costing, I believe it was over 500, close to $600 a night staying at the hotel. But he's ended up actually only spending 18,000 World of Hyatt points to actually end up doing the stay. So this actually ends up being valuable and beneficial for him because he decided to do it for a weekend stay. Next, they end up being booking with small luxury hotels of the world. Now, small luxury hotels of the world are partnered with the World of Hyatt program, and there are some places where you can actually end up getting some really good value for your World of Hyatt points when booking with the small luxury hotels of the world. But in other cases, and honestly, what I've seen for, I would say, maybe most cases, is that you're typically going to be getting closer to about 1 cent per point when you actually end up booking with them. Now, one thing to note, actually, when you actually do try to book with the small luxury hotels of the world, is that there isn't going to be a lot of award space. And also, you actually have to make sure that when you're booking with them, you actually understand the rules that can be with the hotel. So sometimes the hotel might actually have like a minimum stay of 2 days, but it won't actually say it on Hyatt's website. But if you actually end up going on the website of that hotel, you'll actually end up seeing it as being 2 stays. But if you actually try to book it on Hyatt's website, you're not going to have the ability to book it if you try to do it for just 1 day. Now, when actually booking with these small luxury hotels of the world, with the World of Hyatt program, I've actually seen at the higher ends, you can actually end up getting yourself some good value. But I feel like at the middle ends, it typically ends up being close to about 1 cent per point. So it really depends on where you actually end up going. But I just think that it's not always the greatest value booking with them. I mean, you see right here, you can end up booking and end up being 25,000 points, but it ended up costing you 275 euros. So while, yes, it's not horrible redemption, still at levels like this, it almost makes you wonder why you won't just use something like either your Chase Sapphire Reserve card just to get 1.5 cents back per point and then end up booking it that way. So you can end up maybe finding better value, I feel like, with some small luxury hotels in the world if you decide to book with the Chase travel portal instead of actually just booking with them directly. If you actually just use your Chase Sapphire Reserve or even your Chase Sapphire Preferred and actually just book this through the travel portal, then you can actually end up getting yourself better value from doing that as compared to booking with the World of Hyatt program. And honestly, World of Hyatt doesn't always actually even have the best price value for the small luxury hotels of the world. So that's something also to keep in mind, is that when you actually end up looking at the price values on World of Hyatt program as compared to just Googling the price of this hotel, you might actually end up seeing a better value from Google. And small luxury hotels of the world don't actually have a price match guaranteed like other Hyatt hotels. So that's something to keep in mind. But the thing about it is that there are actually good values you actually can get from booking with these small luxury hotels, especially on the higher end. So say you happen to actually want to go out to Greece and be out in Santorini, this hotel right here ends up being 35,000 points. Now, if you actually end up looking at what it's going to end up being for dollar value, you actually end up seeing that it ends up being euros of 950 euros or 1,200 euros. For both of these are actually available on points to redeem for. So this can actually end up being really good value right there. Now, when you actually are trying to book small luxury hotels of the world, just know that they typically don't have very many rooms that are available for award bookings. So you typically are going to have to book really far in advance to actually end up make sure you can find the award space. So the times I'm actually booking for this one are actually May of next year. So that's actually the way I'm able to find this award availability. But just note that if you happen to want to go to Greece and go to Santorini and stay at this hotel, chances are if you're trying to go this summer, it's probably going to be almost impossible to find award availability. Now, if you want to redeem your Hyatt points and stay at high-end Hyatt hotels, the best way to do that will end up being overseas. So one of the places will actually end up being going over to Bali. So if you decide to go over to Bali, you can actually stay at Alila hotels for 6,500 points, or if you want to go stay at a Hyatt Regency, it end up being 5,000 points. So this can actually end up being a way to stay at some of the higher-end Hyatt hotels within their program. Now, if you actually end up looking at Hyatt Regencies or Alila hotels over in America or Grand Hyatts over in America, you're not going to find a Grand Hyatt in America for 3,500 points. I mean, this right here is 3,500 points, or it can end up being $170. So this can end up being a great use of points if you decide to go out to Bali and actually stay at a Grand Hyatt hotel. You can actually end up getting great value for that. So this is actually one thing that I ended up doing when I went over to Turkey. I was able to stay at a Park Hyatt out in Turkey, along with also staying at a Grand Hyatt out in Turkey, and the points were actually a little bit less. It ended up being 15,000 points when I stayed at the Park Hyatt. Being able to stay at Hyatt's flagship hotel out in Istanbul ended up being an incredible experience for me, and it didn't even cost me that many points. So that can end up being a great way to stay at the higher end Hyatt hotels for not that many points. Now, if you actually want to stay in America for that many points, what I would say is to Google World of Hyatt Category 1. Now, what would end up happening is you're going to pull up, this screen is going to end up being the top page, where you actually end up getting to see all the different categories from Category 1 to Category 8. But if you actually end up clicking on Category 1, you actually end up seeing the different hotels you can actually stay at within America that actually end up being Category 1. So I've actually done this, and I actually stayed out in Utah for, I think, a little over a week, but actually ended up having a great time staying out there. It only cost me 3,500 points each night, and I believe the hotel stay would have been somewhere around lines of like $130. So this is my breakdown of what I feel that you should be getting for average cents per point when you end up booking with the World of Hyatt program. You should typically look to get to about 2 cents per point, unless you're looking at Vegas during the week, then it's probably going to end up being lower, or if you end up looking at some of these small luxury hotels of the world that happen to be in the middle range. But if you happen to be looking at just Hyatt branded hotels, usually it's going to end up being somewhere around 2 cents per point or better. Or if you happen to be looking at some of the MGMs during the weekend, or if you happen to be looking at small luxury hotels of the world on the higher end, you can be looking at way greater value than even 2 cents per point. But hopefully this video was helpful. If you do have any questions, drop them down in the comment section down below. I'll do the best I can to answer them. If you happen to really like this video, then please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.